السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الذي لا إله سواه، والحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه، حمدا يليق بجلال وجهه وبعظيم سلطانه وبجزيل نعمائه، والصلاة والسلام على نبيه محمد الصادق الأمين والرسول المبين المبعوث رحمة للعالمين، وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Today I want to share with you a few reflections on some of the inner dimensions of fasting or Sawm. Sawm being another ibadah, another devotional act towards the divine, the creator, is also imbued and embellished with its inner meaning, with its heart. When we fast, we also are liberated from addiction to food, from addiction to drinking, from addiction to that which is material. There is life beyond eating and drinking. There is happiness beyond and greater than the happiness and the joy we find in eating and in drinking. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to take a respite, to take a short break, if you will, from eating and eating habits, in order that we do not become addicted to those, and in order that we discover happiness and joy beyond the happiness and the joy of eating and drinking. The two are incomparable. The happiness we experience in spiritual devotion far exceeds the happiness we might experience physically. They are of a different sort, of a different nature. Spiritually, through salah, through dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through fasting, through siyam, and so on, is a joy that is different. It's a joy that is quiet. It's a joy that is serene. It is the joy that you want of always more, always more. When we eat and we find joy in eating, how much can we eat? At one point, we cannot eat anymore. If we eat anymore, we would vomit. It would be harmful to us. And so it is in other pleasures that are worldly. But in the pleasures that are spiritual, such as in salah, such as in fasting, such as in dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, subhanallah, that joy is serene and it never has an end. You can have more and more of that and never have this sensation of enough. There is always a degree more profound, deeper, higher than the degree we experienced spiritually. Sawm, fasting, has a core. Fasting also has a heart. One of those aspects, of those inner dimensional aspects of Sawm in divine wisdom, is that it teaches us to be soft towards the needy, the poor, the homeless, the hungry. Look, there is a difference between feeling for the hungry and being kind to the hungry and the poor and talking about it and even giving them of our food and sharing with them of our clothing. But when we ourselves become hungry and go through that process of hunger, we realize that in a way that is more direct. And we, if we practice that fasting the proper way, we develop a sensitivity of kindness, of gentleness, of appreciation for the plight of the hungry, the needy, the homeless. Thus, fasting makes me more compassionate towards the needy, the destitute, the dispossessed, the homeless. Walhamdulillah. fasting, for it to be beneficial to me, I must not violate its spirit. Fasting, and especially in the month of Ramadan, for most Muslims have become a cultural activity in which during Ramadan we eat more than outside of Ramadan. Then where is the spirit of fasting? Do we fast in order to celebrate eating? That's not the intent. Fasting is intended to celebrate absence of eating and celebrate spiritual cultivation and nourishment. It is not intended to celebrate food. I must not only fast, but when sunset arrives, I must eat very moderately, very simply, and very humbly. I must not, again, as I said, eat with vindictiveness and vengefulness, and I break the fast. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam is related to have said, أطول الناس جوعا يوم القيامة أكثرهم شبعا في الدنيا. Subhanallah. He said that the people who eat most in this dunya, who feel full after eating in this dunya most, in the day of judgment, they will spend longest periods of hunger. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. May God shelter us, subhanallah. Feeling hungry and eating to our full most of the time is not something good for us. Even in the day of judgment, that when we eat and when we fast and when we eat after fasting, we should do that moderately, lest it would violate and undo the very intent and spirit of fasting itself. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam is reported to have said, إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ يَجْرِي فِي الْإِنسَانِ مَجْرَى الدَّمِ. Verily, shaitan runs into the child of Adam with the flow of blood, with the flow of his or her blood. It's a concept that is very interesting, that shaitan can run in us everywhere. And as blood can reach and permeate every aspect of the person's body, shaitan can have access to the entire person in so many hidden ways. So some scholars have said at the end of this text, فَضَيِّقُوا مَجَارِيهِ بِالصَّوْمِ. Therefore restrain and constrain the passage ways of shaitan by fasting. That is, the more we eat, the more we indulge in food, the more we are subject to the whispers of shaitan, to the effects of shaitan, to the luring of shaitan, to the illusions of shaitan. We will weaken towards the suggestions of shaitan in our lives to do evil, to do wrong, and to be weak. But when we fast, when we do not indulge in eating in ways that are excessive, and when we break our fast in ways that are moderate, then we restrain the effect of shaitan in us and in our lives. We are going to take a short break at this point in order to return a few moments later to talk more about the heart of fasting. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Where truth is hidden, misleading quotations create confusion. Where truth is hidden, lack of knowledge and wisdom cause upheaval and commotion. Where truth is hidden, manipulated scriptures and twisted facts emerge. This very hidden truth creates false propaganda, mayhem, chaos, disorder, and turmoil in our lives and the world order. But is there anyone with courage and wisdom? What is the truth? And who has the courage to expose it? Because it's your right to know the truth.
Watch Truth Prevail and Lies Perish in Truth Exposed by Dr. Zakir Naik every Saturday to Thursday at 9 p.m. and repeat telecast at 7:30 a.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV. Asim Al-Hakim.
People tend to make the common mistake of looking for peace in far and remote places. But if we look a bit closer, we will find the peace within. For directions and messages that give us happiness and success, join us.
Mind Your Soul every Thursday at 6 p.m. Saudi Arabia and 7 p.m. UAE on Peace TV.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا. You as a person are a mirror that reflects your faith. Your deeds are a reflection of what you believe.
The fasting, the Hajj, the prayer. Join Abdur Rahim McCarthy in Reflections on Islam, next on Peace TV.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the heart of fasting. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam is also related to have said, As-sawmu junnah. Fasting is a shield. Indeed, it is. Shield, again, from the low base drive of our own self towards base low desires and towards excess in our lives. When we fast, we learn to control ourselves. When we fast, we develop liberation and freedom from our impulses, our internal drives that could be oftentimes very base and very wrong. As-sawmu junnah, he said, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. It's a protection, it's a shield from also the effect of shaitan, the effect, again, as I said, of the devil in our lives. One of the scholars, Yahya ibn Mu'adh, rahimahullah ta'ala, in such a beautiful way, he put it when he said, and I translate the meaning of that the whispers of shaitan, when they land in the field of hunger, they get lost. They don't find their way. But when they land in the field of satiation or satiety or fullness of the stomach, they grow and they plant themselves. Which means what? That the suggestions of shaitan, those internal discourse that we have inside of us that is wrong and evil, when we are full, especially if we do that on average in our lives or most of the time in our lives, then those whispers and suggestions and thoughts that we have and ideas that we have that are evil, they find a place in our hearts. We accept them, in other words. We find them satisfying and we act upon them. But if those whispers land in the field of hunger, that is, when they find in us a person who controls his appetite, a person who does not eat too much, a person who does not often eat to fullness, but a person who eats very moderately, that person, the heart of that person, will not be receptive to those evil suggestions and thoughts. Those thoughts will not easily implant themselves in the heart of the person. They will not find a way by which to externalize themselves, to actualize themselves. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam told us بحسب ابن آدم أكيلات يقمن صلبه. It suffices the child of Adam few bitelets or few ukaylat, the diminutive of ukla, of a meal that is small meals, to enable him to stay healthy. Small meals to stay healthy, or bitelets to stay healthy. But if he has to, فإن كان لابد فالثلث لطعامه وثلث لشرابه وثلث لنفسه أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم. And if one has to, in other words, if one has to eat more than those few small bites or meals, then one should eat 1/3 of solid food, 1/3 for liquids, and the third of his or her stomach should be empty for air, for breath. That's the recipe of health. Not only physical health, but most importantly, a recipe, an essential part of the recipe for the spiritual health as well, my dear brothers and sisters. So when we eat and we break our fast, truly breaking it with excess of food and with all sorts of qualities of food, we have lost the spirit of Sawm. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, when he ate at the end of the day after fasting, he ate very humbly and very moderately. Oftentimes it suffices few dates, some water, and it's enough until after we perform salah and we can have a meal, again moderately, rather than eat so much and then come to salah of Isha or of Taraweeh in such a lazy way, and thus losing the effect, the positive effect, both of fasting and of praying or of salah as well, my dear brothers and sisters. The discipline of fasting, as it teaches us to liberate ourselves from the materialistic yokes and chains that we have attached ourselves to through eating and drinking and sleeping and copulating, teaches us to liberate ourselves from those and to find joy and to find peace greater than the peace and joy we pursue materialistically. In addition to that, it teaches us something beyond that, fasting in a different sense, not only fasting from food and drink as we do that, an intimate relationship during the day until the evening, outside in the lawful sense, because outside of the lawful sense, relationship between genders, opposite genders, is prohibited in Islam except through marriage. That is even stopped during fasting, during the day, so that we discover a joy beyond the joy of that intimate gender relationship. Subhanallah, what a beautiful concept it is indeed. And those who have tasted of that know its worth and would not give up that spiritual joy and serenity and that nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for anything in the world. As I was saying a moment ago, fasting, keeping control and disciplining ourselves in terms of eating and drinking and intimate relationships leads us to have a sort of fasting that is different. It's an abstract form of fasting. It leads us to fast away from sins, from using our senses, our eyes, our ears, our tongues, our hands, our sexual organs, even our thoughts, in ways that are improper, in ways that are illegal, in ways that are immoral, in ways that are not beautiful. Yes, think of the concept of my eyes fasting, my ears fasting, my tongue fasting, my hands fasting, my legs fasting, my sexual organs fasting, my thoughts fasting, meaning they do not engage in that which is not beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I do not use my eyes looking at that which is evil, that which is prohibited to me morally, that which is not of concern to me. I have my ears fasting by not listening to sounds that Allah does not love, and that are detrimental or harmful to my spiritual state of my heart in my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My hands fasting from not using my hands or my power or my capacities and abilities in ways that are harmful, destructive, illegal, immoral, do not please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I do not use my legs to go where I should not go, to be where I should not be, to use my legs in any way that is not condoned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in any way that is harmful to me or to others. That's another concept of fasting. Fasting helps me get to that dimension. A deeper dimension of that is also fasting in my internal feelings towards other human beings and creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I hold myself, my inner feelings from expressing or from harboring that which is not beautiful towards other creatures, especially towards other fellow human beings, and more especially towards other fellow Muslims in particular. And a deeper sense of fasting even is fasting inside of me, in my heart, from being focused and oriented towards anything except the Divine Himself, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because fasting, sama in the Arabic language, literally means to withhold, literally means to refrain, literally means to stop. Up to this point, we cannot again ignore the heart of any worship, the heart of fasting in this case. When we know that, when we learn about that, subhanallah, these acts of worship become even more significant to our lives, become sweeter after becoming easier. Those who experience something like that and experience the sweetness of it will not want to give that up for anything in the world. When challenged by attractions to themselves in the world at the expense of what Allah loves, they find strength inside of themselves not to give in to those dangerous attractions, because they have something that is more beautiful than those other attractions. Knowing of the spirit of the heart of those acts of worship will help us again develop steadfastness in our quest for the divine, and we will not be deluded or disillusioned by the consumerist, worldly attractions. Our orientation towards the divine will not be changed towards an orientation towards the created, towards that which is fleeting, that which does not last. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, out of His love for us, out of His rahmah for us, indeed gave us these ibadat in order to liberate us. And I mean by us, to liberate our hearts from the strangulating effect of our egos, of our internal drives and passions that result in our misery, in our demise, in our distance and remoteness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The heart of Sawm is as essential as the heart of Salah, and they are all essential ibadat to help us liberate ourselves away from the created into the realm of the Creator, away from the fleeting, shallow satisfaction through the material towards the profound and lasting and real joy with the Creator. My dear brothers and sisters, it has been a pleasure, inshaAllah ta'ala, for me to share with you some of these beautiful elements of the heart of Islam. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will impress them upon your hearts and mine forever. And that when we leave this world, we leave this world enriched in our spirit, happy to be with our Creator. Until I meet you some other time, do continue to live in peace. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.